Hello, and welcome to an acoustical episode of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, once again, Nick Harmon. With us today, a blast from the past, Chris Chiatovich of CLC Interiors out of Kimberly, Idaho. Chris and I attended Intex together around 10 years ago and met some major players in the industry. This was all due to him trying Fresco Harmony and becoming an early adapter of the product. We talk about those early days of Fresco Harmony, but also the early days of Chris's career and why finishing may have been the best route for him.
When I had seen you on Drywall Talk, I'm pretty sure it was Drywall Talk, the only thing I was a part of back then.
Yeah.
I had this idea before you, and
Sure.
not necessarily what you've done with it, but we were adding paint to mud and we were spraying it through hoppers and doing crazy stuff like that. The sealer part was, that was the next step we never took. Like, what do you do now? It's on the wall. You can't leave raw mud on the wall.
Yeah.
But with the full texture that we have always done, the full skim texture, I'm like, wow, we're covering these walls 95%. Why aren't we coloring these walls?
Totally.
Why aren't we adding something or putting paint and mud and going over a painted wall and making this two-tone effect, and
we do a deep dive into corner bead and why he still likes metal, but why he also does metal framing and acoustical ceilings. We talk about commercial drywall versus residential in this episode, and a whole lot more. Today's episode of the Drywall Podcast was brought to you by Fresco Harmony. Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. We keep expanding, we keep getting better. You can find our products online at csrbuilding.com. If you're up in Canada, if you're in the United States, we have several locations that we sell out of that are highlighted on our website. And you can also check out Fresco Harmony at www.frescoharmony.com or go to the Fresco Harmony YouTube page and make some popcorn and sit down and watch hours and hours of Fresco Harmony videos that are informative and interesting. Have a hankering to tell your story on the Drywall Podcast? I'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear from you as well. You can contact me at info@frescoharmony.com and I'll email you back. Guests of the Drywall Podcast will receive a sweet swag bucket from our friends at CSR just for coming on the show. But for now, Chris Chiatovich out of Kimberly, Idaho with CLC Interiors on the 110th episode of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it. And Chris, tell me how to pronounce your last name. I want to say Chiatovich.
it's Chiatovich.
Chiatovich.
Chiatovich, yes.
Okay, cool. And tell me really quick the name of your company.
CLC Interiors.
And you're still in Idaho, correct?
Yes.
What town?
Kimberly, Idaho.
Kimberly.
Yes.
I may have driven through Kimberly on my way up north.
Yeah, there's a pretty good sized city right next to us named Twin Falls.
Okay.
And they basically touch. So
Okay.
you had to go through Kimberly if you went to Boise or anywhere else.
Yep. Yeah, we headed up through Salt Lake and then turned up from I don't know, 84, I believe I was on 84 all the way up.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Very cool.
Mhm.
Welcome to the Drywall Podcast. Thanks for coming on. Chris and I've known each other for quite a while. We went to Intex way back in the day in Las Vegas. It was the first Intex show that I ever went to. Um, you were an early adapter of Fresco Harmony, and we met over there. We met Joe from Trimtex, went out to eat. It was a very good time. That's probably 12 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's
It's
been a
been a little
while.
bit. Yeah, very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So, why have you resurfaced lately? I think I reached out. Maybe you reached out. You had some questions about Fresco Harmony, but for whatever reason, you were on the radar. And I'm like, let's get Chris on the show. We've known each other for quite a while. Do you listen to the Drywall podcast?
I have watched a few of them. Yeah.
Okay.
I might be a subscriber. I'm not sure. I know they pop up on my recommended every now and again on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So you watch as opposed to listen.
Yeah, I watch. Definitely watch.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Which ones have you caught?
Oh gosh. I can't name exactly what they were. I know
All right.
there was I think a salesman guy that was on your show that I knew the name, may have met him. And so I watched that. There was another popular type of like YouTube guy or Facebook guy. I want to say like Papa or something like that, Paps,
Paps,
something like
yeah.
that. Made a lot of good videos, and I know I've
Yeah.
seen those videos, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch that. Pops Dugan was his
Yeah.
name, I believe. And then there was like some female drywallers that may have
Sure.
been on once or twice, and so
Oh, yeah.
I checked those ones out. A couple other guys, yeah. I mean, drywallers find other drywallers interesting. I think,
Absolutely.
we're a different
Yeah.
breed, so it's
Yeah.
funny to watch their videos and listen to them talk, and all the stories are kind of the same, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's
Yeah.
dig in a little bit, see how similar your story is to some of the other characters that we've had on here. Are you a first generation drywaller?
Yeah, for my family, yes.
All right.
But when I moved to Idaho 35 years ago, I happened
Okay.
to live down the street from a guy that ended up being one of my best friends. And his dad had a drywall business, and he would get us to stock drywall and stuff on the weekends. Because back when I started, we didn't have delivery guys that would stock. They would just drop it off in front of the house or
Okay.
wherever. And so we'd go there, and he would give us $1 a sheet to haul it into
Nice.
the house. And that's back when houses had 5/8 on ceilings and 1/2 inch on walls. And we'd haul them all in. And Saturday, Sunday, it's how we spent our days, still in high school.
Okay.
And he'd pay us money for doing it. And that's kind of how it started.
Bonnie, where did you move from to, did you move and you
Southern
moved?
California.
Okay. You moved to Kimberly.
Yeah. Well, I moved to Filer, which is just another little city, just a little ways from here.
Okay.
But it's all kind of the Twin Falls area.
Okay. Where were you at in Southern Cali?
Palm Springs is where I was born, and I
Okay.
lived in a high desert town right outside of Palm Springs up till I was 15.
Okay. How come your parents took you up to
My
Idaho?
mom and dad split when I was young, and one of her best friends moved to Idaho when we were young. And Southern California was great back then, but it was kind of starting to get weird. And she said, you need to move to Idaho. And so my mom and my sister moved up here, and I stayed with my dad. And then shortly after, I ended up moving up here, and I've loved it here ever since.
Very cool. And so you met a buddy down the road. His dad did drywall, and he would pay you guys $1 a sheet to load the houses in. And that was during high school. Maybe you do that during the summers or something?
No, during the school year, all year
Okay.
round. It was year round. And then then into the summer, it started becoming more of a, hey, can you guys do this? Can you guys do that? And
Yeah.
we
Hang out and
scrape
fire some
acoustic
screws.
ceilings. Yeah, we used to scrape acoustic ceilings. We would scrap. We would, whatever the old man needed, we would do it and make some money.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And so you were pretty young then. Did you have aspirations to do anything else out of high school other than drywall? Or were you like, shoot, man, I could go right into this and make some money with this guy? I don't know. I mean, were you doing anything else? Did you
Yeah.
have like aspirations to go to college or anything?
Not necessarily. I did do some like garage work with like changing oils and tires and did a
Okay.
lot of that stuff during the summers. I did a paper route. I did all sorts of stuff and but the money was better with helping my good friend's dad, and he was taping at a really young age. So I know I would rather tape than stock drywall or do anything else. I mean, I did
Right.
framing, we did concrete, did all those jobs. And here in Idaho, you have pretty good winters. So drywall was a year-round gig, and so I started taping, and here I am now, still taping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not as much as I used to, but still doing a lot of taping.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into your current business. What company was that at the time?
It was called Keist Drywall. And there was
Keist.
only 2 or 3 drywall companies in this whole valley that I work in now. And they were one of the pioneers from this area. And they had a really good name and did really good work. And that's who
Okay.
I started working for. Me and my partner, that his dad had the business. We actually started our business when we were 18, doing our
Okay.
own thing. And he got us to help him out on a job one day. He's like, hey, I really need you guys' help on this job. It's a big monster and we need some help. And so we went to work and helped him, thought just me for a few weeks. And a few years later, we were literally got a phone call. We were literally every day, 6 days a week, helping the old man out, and kind of
Yeah.
lost sight of our business we had started. So that's where that went.
So you ended up just throwing in with him full time?
Basically, he paid us as subs. We had our own comp and liability, and he
Okay.
encouraged that from the get-go, made it
Yeah.
easier for him to pay us,
Yeah.
and that's where we went with that.
Okay, so what year, two questions. How old are you? And then what year would this be?
I'm 50 now,
Okay.
and the year we started helping him out full time for a couple years was probably, I was probably like 21, 22,
Okay.
somewhere right in that area.
All right. So at 18, you guys maybe try starting your own business, but maybe you were finding it hard. I thought was it your partner's dad's business?
No, we had a business ourselves before that, and we started kind of
Okay.
getting kind of busy, taking on houses, doing a lot of stuff with
Okay.
2 teenagers, basically.
Right.
And he asked us to help him on a job,
Okay.
and used us up for a few years.
Yeah.
And father-son businesses like what they had going, or our business and his dad bossing us around,
Yeah.
they butted heads, and that didn't
Yeah.
last, but it did last a couple of years.
Okay.
And we finally said, heck with that, and just went back out on our own, and took off from there. And then many of changes since then. So
Yeah, yeah. Did
yeah.
you find it easier to hustle work on your own, as opposed to subbing, maybe tackling all of the responsibility of a job versus just, subbing for
It was the
somebody?
same. It was basically the same thing. When we
Okay.
went to work for him, we were subs as well. So all the headache of being a sub was the same thing.
Okay.
Nothing really changed on that, other than we always had something to do, and we were kind of being told what to do all the time. Where
Right.
before it was kind of knock out a few, 3, 4 jobs, not worry about it for a while.
Yeah.
And where I live, it's been booming for ever since I moved here. Work's not hard to find. Um, if you do a good job, you'll be busy. So,
Okay. All right. Very cool.
yep.
And do you have your own company now? CLC is yours, so you're not
Yeah.
sharing that with anybody.
Yes.
Back in the day, were you out of the gate? Well, how much were you making square footage price when you were subbing? And this must have been around 2000, yeah?
Oh, it was before that. It was
Yeah,
it was
94.
mid '90s, late '90s.
Okay.
Um, the his dad, when we worked for him, to use that as a baseline, he had a pretty good reputation of turning good work and charging whatever he wanted. So
Okay.
we were getting like 22 to 26 cents a foot taping back in the day, which was like a nickel to 10 cents more than
Yeah.
anybody else doing it around here. So
Yeah, that's
and,
pretty good.
plus we'd get $10 a stick of corner bead back in the
Great.
day.
So he was paying you
So
pretty good, so you guys did a good job. And were you running the tools back then?
it's funny you ask. We had tools, and I just never was that guy. We
Yeah.
had we had a couple guys. We had a big bull named Wade that was big and strong, and he didn't have the hand skills. So he was the box pusher and angle boxes, whatever.
Okay.
And I mainly got stuck putting on metal, corner bead, run to metal, touch up, handwork, picking corners, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
For the longest time, I didn't get a box for like probably 10 years, except grab a box every now and again and box out a couple joints while I was up on a
Okay.
scaffold or something.
Right, right. Okay. Were you using the metal corner bead? Were you doing like crimp on and all that?
Oh yeah,
Staples or
yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
okay.
definitely. Started with corner bead, clinch on, and then graduated to trim tech, and then started kind of playing around with all the tape-ons and whatnot, and just found the quickest way and the way that people want to buy it around here is trim techs. They love it. I don't know why. Corner
Yeah.
bead metal is still, I think, fastest way, but
Why? Why do you say that?
just the staples,
You
just
were
goes
quick. You were
down.
quick at it. You
Yeah,
probably you probably got pretty fast at it.
and it takes a lot of less fill compared to the plastic, but I sold 2 or 3 guys on the plastic way back, and the not denting, non-molding,
Yeah,
non-rusting,
yeah.
whatever. And that's what everybody uses around here. I still see corner bead every now and again, but it's very rare. Metal and a lot of tape on guys, but
Funny. And you
never.
but you like metal. You still like metal a little better.
Yeah, but I don't install it anymore.
That's
Um,
fun. That's funny. You're
Very
you're kind of
rare.
rare. You're rare in that regard. I mean, I like tape on. I've always liked the tape on corner bead. They have
I
the
know a lot of
hoppers
guys.
now.
A lot of guys do. I know, and the hoppers are cool, and it just
Uh-huh.
seemed like a messy way.
Right.
Whenever I was putting on bead and stuff in the day,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could just wear whatever to
You're just
work
clean.
and jump in my truck at the end of the day and just as clean as when I showed up.
Yeah.
And tape on, no, I'm
Uh-uh.
a muddy mess, and the floors get messy. I'm not a floor
Yeah.
paper guy. We still just go right in and go right over the floor
Yeah.
and kind of clean up as we go if it's
Yeah.
if it's there. Yeah.
You can keep it kind of clean. And then a bazooka. Yeah, you run a bazooka or did you do
We used to. I don't do too much taping anymore just because I have a few crews that kind of do most of that. As
Okay.
the time went on, the contractors that were here demanded more of like steel stud framing, acoustical ceilings, drywall,
Okay.
all as a package deal. And I said, to heck with taping, even though I love it and I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I'd rather do steel stud framing or acoustic ceilings and stay clean again, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, just because it's a little cleaner, a little different. I mean, it seems like steel stud installation would be pretty fun.
It is, and there's not a whole lot of guys around here that are in that market. I mean, there's a lot, but not enough to go around for what's in this area. So it's another high paying trade in my area.
Okay. All right. So, how long were you with your business partner before you branched out on your own?
Well, it's a funny story. Me and my friend were in business together for probably 2 years, 2.5 years, then went to go help his old man. And then it was about another 2 years before that shit hit the fan. Best way to
Yeah.
describe my
Yeah.
friend and his dad butted heads. It was, ongoing forever. And
Yeah.
anybody that's worked with any father son outfits knows what I'm talking about.
Sure.
But that didn't work out so well. My friend ended up going to work for one of the main competitors of his dad, which were best friends. They used to be partners. They branched to their own thing. He went to work for him. And the box pushing guy, Wade, and me broke off from Sean, my friend's dad. We were all friends, but we broke off and started doing his own. He moved off to Arizona, the Keith's Drywall. And me and him partnered up and started doing jobs together. And that's who I was partners with for 20 something years.
Okay.
Me and Wade.
You guys work well together.
Yeah, when I met you in Vegas, we were, peak, peak time of our business.
Okay.
So he was a hardworking dude. I kind of did. I was a hardworking guy as well, but I did more of the finding jobs, invoicing, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
He was just a everyday, all day guy. Saturday, Sunday, sometimes. We just made it work for many,
Yeah.
many years.
Very cool. Very cool. It's nice when you can find a partnership like that.
Yes. Yes.
And so where did you find out about Fresco? Was that Drywall Talk?
I think it was Drywall Talk, if I remember right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I remember jumping on Drywall Talk and I was just sort of showing people my wares and yeah, we must have connected a little bit and then you did a job back in the day. I mean, I have my own sealer now. Back then we were using the Modern Masters Venetian top coat sealer. It worked all right.
I used they didn't have that in my area because I had looked at a few supplies for it. And I mean, I don't even remember if you could order that online back then. You probably could have, but
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
And I found some, it was like a Valspar product at Home Depot or Lowe's.
Uh-huh.
It was called Venetian plaster top coat or
Yeah.
something like that. It
Yeah.
looked like mayonnaise out of a can.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I started using. I'm assuming it worked just like the stuff you were using.
Yeah.
And made a nice slick, nice finish over the drywall mud. And when I had seen you on Drywall Talk, I'm pretty sure it was Drywall Talk, the only thing I was a part of back then.
Yeah.
I had this idea before you, and not
Sure.
necessarily what you've done with it, but we were adding paint to mud and
Yeah.
we were spraying it through hoppers and doing crazy stuff like that. The sealer part was, that was the next step we never took. Like, what do you do now? It's on the wall. You can't leave
Yeah.
raw mud on the wall.
Yeah.
But with the full texture that we have always done, the full skim texture, I'm like, wow, we're covering these walls 95%. Why aren't we coloring these walls?
Totally.
Why aren't we adding something or putting paint and mud and going over a painted wall and making this two-tone effect, and
Sure.
I'm sure every drywaller thinks about stuff like that when they're
Yeah.
spreading mud for 10 hours a day and just,
Yeah.
you know.
I
So
remember I was doing art when I was in the union in Portland. Like I was doing like art with the mud and I'd show the guys. And I remember one of my foremen, we went over to his house. I actually played soccer with the dude in the Hispanic leagues. And he showed me a ceiling that he had done where I think he had skimmed it like, you know, with blue. And then he did white, like skip trowel, or he did a knockdown. He sprayed it with white and then did a knockdown over the blue. So he did like sort of a interesting two-tone that way. I don't think he sealed it, but I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. They were all like seeds that I sort of filed away early on.
mhm. Yeah,
But yeah, it occurred to me, why couldn't you skim walls using color joint compound and paint and texture at the same time? It's kind of like, but I was proficient with the color, and then I had been experimenting with sealers and stuff too. So, the modern masters didn't come until later, but the we were using a acrylic, a water-based sponge on sort of thin. We're probably
right.
using it when you bought product too. We were probably
I
doing it that way.
remember I remember there was a fashion going around of that kind of stuff, painting going on, sponges, weird thick
Yeah.
textures, catching color in the corners and painters were getting high-end money around here for it. And I'm just like, why are these guys getting all the money when they're like coming in and saying, hey, you need to make this texture thicker and gaubier. And I'm like, well, I mean, we've already put 30 boxes into this room of texture. Can we tell me what's going on and I'll leave it for you. But they just
Yeah.
wanted the roughest look they can get because when they come in with their sponges, they would knock a lot of the bugs and high spots out,
Oh,
and
interesting.
it would just catch in the lows, and it would just kind of, I seen what they were doing, and I'm like, oh wow, why are they doing that? Why shouldn't we be doing that? And
Totally.
so when I saw your thing on Drywall Talk, I'm like, yes, that finally. And you went through all the work of the color charts and the way to mix and adding
Yeah.
it to the that's the next step that I don't think anybody had ever took. So
Right, right. Yeah, I think people would certainly dump paint into mud and colored mud, and they still are, but a lot of people are, they're using like the never miss products and coloring mud for touch-ups, or like now on social media, I'm seeing a lot of people color mud for like the second coat, or when they run the corner box or something, to differentiate. It makes it look cool, that sort of thing. But we got a lot of finishers now doing actual fresco. They're throwing up Fresco Harmony, making money with it. It's
yeah,
growing. It's growing all the time. This was like 12 years ago. If you're listening, I mean the beginnings were very meager. There wasn't there wasn't a lot of interest. Not as much as there is now. So that was it. It was interesting that you climbed on board and you did pretty well with it. You
I
bought
did
quite a
three or
bit.
four or five little jobs with it, and
Yep.
my wife's parents built an event center like for fine dining and weddings and graduations or whatever. And I don't know how it even came out. I think, oh, I did my fireplace at my house with it.
Okay.
And they were over and they're, oh, they really liked it and asked what it was. And it was Johnson 10. And their
Yeah.
last name happened to be Johnson.
Oh, funny.
So they're like, oh, we want that. And so ended up doing a pretty good little sized job. There was, the kitchen and prep area, bathrooms downstairs, and it was mainly old rustic wood, the whole building, like 100-year-old building.
Yeah.
And they framed a few little spots in, and I drywalled it and stuff for them. And That was the first time I had done it. I have a picture of me and my son when he was like 3 or 4,
Yeah.
and I had like 7 buckets, and
Yeah.
I was mixing all the buckets up, and yeah, it's they had a lot of compliments on that, and everybody used that event center in town. So everybody had been there for a wedding, graduation,
Okay.
you name it, like company parties, whatever. They were all there, and so they had all seen it, and always wondered how they get that look, and so I would
Sure.
tell them this is what I did, and but with the hustle and bustle of work, you just kind of just stick with your clients, what they want, get the job done, go, go,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Um, but I did text you, gosh, probably a month or so ago, and said, hey, I have this crazy house I'm working on that's really old bullnose, and they want the big bullnose, 1.5 inch, and
Yeah.
perk doors, and just thousands and thousands of sticks of bullnose on it. And I'm like, gosh, man, I should talk these guys into some Fresco or something, that I can tell
Totally.
that's the style they're into. So I did up a sample of some old yellow that I'd found in the garage, and I hadn't sealed it yet, but I left it there on the job. And as we're sitting here on this phone call, the super from the job's calling me, and I swiped him away, and he texts me, and he's like, call me. And I'm like, I'm in the middle of something, but he can wait an hour, and I'll call him when I get off the phone. So no worries. But I'm wondering what that might have to do with, if that's that, or if who knows. I don't know
Sure.
what they're talking about right now. Yeah.
Sure. I need to get you some more color charts, maybe another color pack so that you can make a sample or something. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like showing people, getting them to do it. But yeah, you put a toe in for a little bit there. It was early on too. I think that it wasn't quite as, it wasn't as dialed as it is now. The sealer's easy to get. The sealer's great to work with. So the color chart. We have 40 more colors that to choose from. Um, I just think it's a little bit more dialed, easier to do. We've ran into more issues that we've solved and things like that. But very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you've been doing drywall for quite a while, and since then, that was probably 12 years ago. How's things been going since then?
Good. Good. Just mainly got into commercial work as the city area that I live in grew. Contractors just building houses, all the big strip malls, out of
Yeah,
state guys, out of town guys were coming in building those. All the local contractors were like, yeah, we should be doing that. And
yeah,
so we all graduated with the contractors in this area is the best way to
okay,
describe it.
yeah,
They it's been booming ever since I moved here, and a lot of houses.
yeah,
But started getting a little watered down in the housing market with every Tom, Dick, and Harry from around the state and other states, countries coming here and snagging up houses and doing it for
yeah,
cheap.
yeah,
So we got into commercial work, a little harder to get into, and
yeah.
a little more long and drawn out projects. And
More stringent on the regulations as well. If you're doing commercial, and you got to have your ducks in a row.
right, right, yeah, public works and stuff like that. And that was great for the longest time, and up till about a year and a half ago, that's all I did. I do a house or two for contractor buddy or friend or something every now and again, but I was strictly out of houses. I just was like, heck with houses. There's more money in commercial, and there's no
Okay.
closets, there's no little small rooms, and it's all big. And now commercial, it's not necessarily slowed down, but a lot of bigger outfits have moved in the area. So I'm actually into big customs right now and commercial at the same time.
Okay.
Not many little houses, but just great big ones, because a lot of people are building big houses out here, and there's still commercial work, but seems like there's a little more competition for it now. So I'm not like trying to buy jobs, just getting what comes my way and keeping my
Right.
contractors happy. So
Yeah, it's such a pretty area that you live in. If I remember right, like driving through there, it's just gorgeous. Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
it's a nice spot.
yeah,
It's a nice
God's
spot.
country.
Yeah.
Cool. So mostly commercial now, and you like the commercial work?
It's probably a 50-50 split right now. It used to be 90 commercial, 10% residential. Now it's probably 50-50 with
Okay.
both. I have a couple contractors that build really big houses for, the wealthy. And so I'll do those ones, and I'll do a few small ones here and there just to keep dudes busy. But
Yeah.
I assume not. There's no margins in it. But the bigger houses, nobody wants to do them. They're a few months in each house, so guys kind of steer away from that. Um, you can price it a little higher.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, especially if you're good. How many guys do you have working for you now?
it changes. I don't have like a day-to-day big crew. I have maybe 6 guys that keep busy,
Okay.
and then 6 to 10 more other ones that'll come in on larger projects. And if I need like a bunch of sheets hung or a bunch of sheets taped, there'll be 2, 3 guys. I don't even know who they are, but I sub under me as well. So I'll
Okay.
hire an outfit to come in and do the taping, and there'll be 10 guys on that crew. Only 5
Yeah.
I might know.
Yeah. They just
So
crush it out.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
just hired the same. I have 2 guys I deal with that take care of me on that, and I have one guy that pretty much is a day-to-day guy. Whether what I'm doing, if I'm framing, doing ceilings, he's going to help me on that. And then I have another
Okay.
old timer that I'll bring out of retirement every now and again to help me do some larger projects. But other than that, it's for drywall hanging and taping. I try not to do any of that, but
Okay.
I'm stuck doing it a lot. So
Yeah, but I was gonna ask what you do personally as far as like physical labor. What do you like the best? What do you end up doing most?
probably acoustical ceilings. That's
Yeah,
probably my favorite. Yeah, it's
yeah,
depending, sometimes you get into some tough ones, but or long wires and stuff, and a lot of people around. But other than that, I do like taping, probably putting on
there,
tape.
there must be
Uh,
good money in those acoustical ceilings. Yeah,
yeah, I mean the less guys that are around here that do it, yeah. But when guys start coming in from other cities and whatnot, then
sure.
yeah, it might get a little watered down. But you could make really good money doing ceilings if you're doing it right, and I enjoy it.
Yeah,
Uh, you go in, you put the grid up, and then you come back a week or 2 later and throw the tile in, and you're done.
yeah,
It's not like a hanging or taping job where you're there for 6, 7 days straight.
right,
And then you come
right,
back again after they beat the crap out of the walls and do a bunch of
right.
touch up.
Yeah,
So ceilings, and just because I haven't done that as much as I've done taping and drywall, and I like steel framing as well. That's a you just walk away from the wall and you're done. You
right,
know, it's like drywall in a way. You hang a wall, you're done with it. You
right.
frame the wall, you're done with it. You tape a wall, you're gonna be there for a few days, to finish it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah,
again, and painters got it the worst. They only get there once, but then they got to come back 2 or 3 times, to
yeah.
fix whatever patches, repairs, scratches, and
Yeah, that painting though, man, those guys, they get a pretty decent amount for going in and blowing out a house with paint.
yeah, some guys are blow and go. Um, I try my best to make sure there's a good painter behind me on my work, just because they'll take care of you, and then they'll do it. They don't want to come back, and there's a lot of guys, especially in residential, that in our area. I mean, everywhere's different.
Yep.
but they're in and out in a day, and
Yeah.
you're like, how did you do that? You know, it's two different colors. How did you do that? And they'll come back the next day and do a little touch up from their tape and they're peeling tape and whatnot. And it don't look very good, but I mean, it gets they get their check and they're done. But I
Yeah.
know the better the painter, the less phone calls I get about taping.
Oh, right, right. Very
Yeah.
cool. Where is CLC Interiors going from here? Do you have like sort of a plan, an in-game plan on the horizon? Are you going to scale back a little bit? You getting into real estate? No, nothing like that, man.
No, well, I mean, maybe very little small time guy, yeah, but not into real estate, but definitely got to start thinking about a retirement plan. The bodies
Yeah,
took a beating over the years, and
sure.
my oldest kid, I started bringing him to the job a while back, and uh, he wasn't meant for it. My youngest son, I think
No
he's all
thanks.
geared
No
up.
thanks, Dad.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, but no thanks. You know what? I'm going to go to college.
yeah, yeah. I think he's working at Fred Meyer, as a matter of fact. He's
There
like,
you go.
I'm gonna do a grocery store, and he's
Yeah,
got all the
anything,
insurance and everything. I'm like,
anything but
okay.
drywall.
Yeah, it took me 20 years to get insurance, and that's just because I got married,
Right, right. Yeah,
So, but my youngest son, he kind of seems to be a tradesman, but if he wants to get into the trade, he needs to expand because subs like me aren't going to be around forever. We're only in it because of our name, but eventually I think all
yeah,
that's going to go away, and you either need to get some guys and keep them well paid and just keep them working nonstop, or find a different trade. And
yeah,
I'm thinking that's probably the way he's going to go. I'm probably just going to try to bang out, another 50 or 60 big ones and save my pennies and retire on that. I don't have a plan for the future other than
okay,
probably should buy some property or something and just maybe do
yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know.
Garden, become a gardener.
I already love gardening. I just don't have the space to do a big garden.
Well, you got good that climate and area is good for gardening, I think, right?
Yeah, it's not the longest season, but it's good enough to grow whatever you want to grow. You're not going to
Sure.
grow like bananas or anything around here, but you
Right.
can grow everything under the sun, and they grow a lot of potatoes, corn, hay, stuff in this area.
Yep.
But real estate it's a little tougher nowadays because a lot of
Yeah.
people have caught on to this market over here. But if somebody could have
Everywhere.
spent
Yeah.
like a little bit of money 20 years ago, you wouldn't have to worry about working tomorrow. You could just sell some land.
Right.
But it wouldn't be a bad idea to start looking into stuff like that. Maybe renovate a few old piece of crap houses
Yep.
and keep them running for the next generation, because rent's so high and housing is so expensive that
Yep.
somebody needs to do something, because I don't know where my younger kids are going to grow up. I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to probably be off to college, but after that, what are you going to pay? $2,500 a month for rent
Yeah.
somewhere, or buy a
Yeah.
$500,000 house? I don't know. So
Right. Right. It's getting tougher all the time. And wages don't seem to be going up. So, trades are looking pretty attractive, honestly. I was thinking like, man, if my son wanted to, I would probably steer him towards like one of the bigger builders. Like, dude, go mentor under this builder and learn how to build houses. Like, do it all, and learn that skill of becoming like a GC and go from there.
a
You
lot
don't
of
have
a
to.
lot of guys my age around here that I grew up with are starting to become like foremen or project managers
Yeah.
for certain builders, and they just kind of bounce around job to job, check progress, make sure guys are doing their thing. doing it right. And that seems attractive to me, but I think I've got a few more years before I'm ready to take that step back to that.
Yeah.
But every day I see them roll up in them brand new trucks and I'm just like, and they're slaving away. I'm like, you know what? That doesn't look too bad. I made the joke the other day to one of them. I was like, gosh, dude, you just wash this truck? He goes, twice a day. I said, what do you mean? He says, we go through the automatics twice a day. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's a little excessive. That's a little excessive. That guy might be a little OCD. I'd be throwing some mud on his truck occasionally. That's for sure.
Definitely
kicking dust on his wheels.
It's kind of appealing to me though. It's like, okay, well, it's time to take the truck through the car wash again, so I can go pull up to the next job.
3:00, better head to the car wash. A system or a tool that you've adapted recently or in the last 6 months, maybe a year. You didn't think that this tool would work. Something that has increased productivity. You didn't think that this method or this system would work at all. You saw people doing it maybe, and you tried it out, and now you wouldn't do it any other way. Anything like that?
Gosh, there's been nothing that's done that for a while. Years ago,
you're probably pretty steadfast in your methods. Right now,
there was those flushers that came out years ago, and the guy that I got into drywall with swears by him. He won't run an angle box or an angle head anymore.
Yeah.
And we did a few houses together a while back, and he kept talking about it, and I'm like, well, where's this flusher at? Where's your tool at? Let's see it.
Yeah.
Tell me how you can just butter the corners, hardly no pick in. And I'm like, well, where's it at? And he never showed up to the job site with it. So we just did it our old way with the old angle head. And I like to use the 2-inch for taping. And I mean, I don't see another better way. I mean, guys swear by the flushers, and I think that's what they call them, is a flusher.
Yeah.
Just a steel on a stick.
Yeah, they have I think they have plastic ones too. Can-Am makes a plastic flusher. Yeah. So
I'd love to give one a try. I mean,
I've talked with people on the podcast that love them. Yeah.
If the guy that taught me how to do it, and he's a really good taper. I'm going to give it to him. If he swears by it, it must be pretty damn good. Yeah. But I'm I guess the guy that just like, this is what works for me, and my tools are dialed in for that specific head. Yeah. That's what I stick with, it just seems to work.
Okay. And then a pearl of wisdom that you can bestow on the drywall community. What would it be? What advice would you give these up and coming tapers, or everyone in the drywall community, if you could launch one pearl?
Probably just keep your ears open. You never know. You're going to learn something from somebody you may ever expect to learn something from. Don't always think your way is the way. Just because there are guys I've hired and fired, many of guys, but I think I learned something from every one of them along the way. Like where I thought I had it figured out, and their method, I criticized it at first, but then I seen how it worked for them and what they may have eliminated to what I was doing. Yeah. But maybe it was a different step. It was just a way about getting the same finish in the end.
Right.
Just keep your ears open. Stick to what you know that works though, but always keep your ears open, and make sure the person that's teaching you what they're doing knows what they're talking about. Because I think the teacher has a lot to do with what you become if you have a good teacher telling you how to do it.
Love it. Yeah, I'm always like, if I'm watching, I'm gonna micromanage because they're not gonna do it the way I want. I find if I leave come back.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I don't watch. If I come back and it looks good, great. You did it.
Mhm.
I don't give a shit how you got it there. If you got it there in a healthy amount of time and it looks good, like move on. And then beyond that, like I've learned some pretty cool things. Like where I used to go around the bullnose with my trowel, and then I hired this one dude that started using the corner tool, those little plastic
Yeah.
white corner tools.
Yeah.
That's how I do bullnose now. So you go right up to the edge, and then I use
Oh
that
yeah.
bullnose tool.
I remember talking to you years ago about that because
Yeah.
I had told you that that's how I was doing it. And
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, I just
Yeah.
go around the corner." And
Yeah.
I'm just like, "Really? That seems difficult to me." But
Yeah.
I remember, and then I remember I've told you that I did the texture samples over with the Fresco. I would do the skim, two skims, and then I would do the skim and then the textures, the skim texture.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everybody was jumping on the textured look.
Yeah.
They'd rather have that.
Yeah.
And you told me, "Oh no, nobody here likes that." And I'm like, I go, "They like it here because the little
Right.
pockets would catch that clear or that
Yep.
sealer,
Yep.
and it would darken up a little bit when you kind of roughed it with your knife. You know how it kind of
Yeah.
what's that, or burnish or whatever. It kind of like changes the luster of it. And I
Yeah.
noticed that everybody I showed samples to wanted the textured sample.
Yep.
So whenever I made samples after that, I just did texture samples.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's different in different areas too, but also back then, even with Jack, my guy, I was much more resistant to like, no, dude, I've already done it. I've already figured out what people like. And
yes,
in my old age, I'm like, well, it not only is it going to vary from region to region, but like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So if you're listening, Chris made samples that were a little more textural, I remember. And then the your sealer, when that sealer sits on top of those ribs, it makes darker areas. The heavier the sealer, the darker it is. Now you might be
yeah.
careful on like a white surface because you're going to get yellow. It might yellow a little bit on the sealer, but yeah, very cool samples though. It was always look good. But
And
that bullnose, like that, even the guy worked with me, and like I would show up to the job, and I'm like, "How the fuck are you getting these corners so like they're
yeah,
perfect?" And
yeah,
I was he's
yeah.
like, I'm using this tool, and I sure as shit like. But there again, I was resistant to like trying it. This was years
Mhm.
after you told me to do it, and I
Mhm.
tried it, and I had a whole house coming up, or a large portion of a house, and I was like, I'm gonna try that corner tool method, and sure as shit, man, it probably saved me 8 to 12 hours on a 2 week project. Probably saved me a day or two.
And if
You
you
know.
just pull your trowel or whatever you're using, I always used a pen and knife. I'm pretty sure
Uh-huh.
you were always a hawk and trowel guy. I always
Hmm.
use pen and knife. I would
Yeah.
just pull it instead of, when you're coating corner bead, you pull towards the bead, to keep the lip off.
Yep.
You can just kind of pull it back and it would knock that little lip off. And then
Yep.
when you seal it, you can do the same thing with that little trowel,
Oh,
that
it's
little
so
rubber
fast.
tool.
It's so
And
fast with a
just
sealer. Yeah.
slicker than shit. It was
Yeah.
smooth and it just was nice. If
Yeah.
there was any bugs or burrs, it would just swipe them right out of the way. And
I found there's black ones. There's also bullnose tools with a black rubber. Those
yeah,
work fine for the mud, but they leave black marks if you're not careful. So
okay.
I
Okay.
use the white. There's like white plastic ones, and they're
Yeah.
not cheap. They're like $15. It's a cheap little tool.
They used to be cheap. Now they're not. You're right.
Nobody makes
I,
them.
yeah, I went to the supply to grab one because we have all that big bullnose in this house. And I know they made a big one for the big bullnose and a small
Okay.
one for the little
I think,
bullnose.
yeah.
And it was like 15 or $20. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I know I have one of these somewhere. So I went to my storage unit and I found it. And so I
There you
took it
go.
to the job late Friday. And I came back this morning, and there's a mile of arches in this house. I'm not exaggerating. And because they were using a piece of paper, they were using tape.
Yeah, I do that too.
Trying to slither it in there. And I'm like, here, let me go get you guys a tool. And so I brought it in there Friday. I came in today. They had them all coated with it.
Yep.
Looked money. I'm like, wow. Because they looked like they worked Saturday and Sunday. I was out of town all weekend. So I didn't know until I got there this morning. And I'm like, oh, wow. They got a lot of work done. And they used my tool. So I was like, cool. So I might have to snag a few of those up and just stash them away because, like you said, they're hard to find anymore. I think Trimtex.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe. I know you can get them. I think you can get them through CSR. Maybe we'll leave a link for our listeners. And fun fact, bullnose is kind of a United States thing, and even western slope of the Rockies. They don't do bullnose like up in Canada. On the East Coast, no bullnose. And I don't think it's a bad look.
We actually don't do it around here that often anymore. Okay. It was a thing in the 90s and early 2000s. And then when the Trimtex, we started using more and more of that. People, because they complained about the corners denting. So then the bullnose came out and it kind of kept it going a little while longer.
Right.
But everybody ended up going back to square or this chamfer bead, which I'm not a huge fan of the chamfer bead, but a lot of houses out here do it.
It's pretty cool.
It doesn't look bad. We just do a lot of commercial ceilings where we've got grid ceilings in them, and it's hard to get your T-bar, your wall angle around that chamfer. It's like snip, 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 little bitty pieces.
Right.
On that corner, we're on a bullnose, they make a cap. We're on a square, they make a cap, or you can just miter it yourself. I'll just buy the caps, the corners.
Yeah.
And it's just quicker, slap the angle up, cut it, slap it on. Around the corner you go. Right. This is for the wall angle on an acoustical ceiling that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Being that we did mainly commercial, they didn't make a corner for those.
Right.
So you had to cut it here, make a little bitty piece, and then all the way around, you'd be there for 5-10 minutes. Where if you just had conventional bullnose or square, quick cut, slip, you're in and out 30 seconds, so never was a fan of chamfer just for that reason.
Okay. All right.
So
I think it's cool. It's not my favorite. They make an undersized 350 bullnose. I like that stuff.
I do too.
I think it looks
archways.
Yeah, I think it looks cool.
Yeah, you don't have to run the tool on them for arches. They're the bullnose part is no splays in it. It's complete. Where you run the standard bull or the 1.5 inches, what I'm doing right now, and you got to coat all that. And
you get those. It's true. That's true. Very cool, Chris Chiatovich. Like Chad.
Yeah, like Chad. People call me Chad on accident.
Okay, Chiatovich. The T kind of sounds like a D. CLC Interiors, 50 years young, out of Kimberly, Idaho. Thank you so much for being on the Drywall Podcast today. It wasn't too bad. And you and I got to catch up a little bit, talk a little bit of drywall. We know how you came up.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to know now. Well, maybe we'll leave a link for that drywall tool. I'd be surprised if CSR does not sell that bullnose tool. I'll bet you they do. If not, L&W here in Albuquerque sells it. I know because I get them there, and they've got like a little stock of them. But yeah, man, thanks so much for being on the Drywall Podcast. I hope you have a awesome rest of your day.
I appreciate it. Thanks for shouting out to me. And
we'll get you you're on the list too. I got to get you maybe, if you think about it, go and pick a couple colors that you'd like, and I'll get them shipped to you, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, Nick.
Bye. Huge shout out to Chris for joining me on the Drywall Podcast today. I appreciate your time, sir, and your knowledge. Hopefully we can hook up very soon. Today's episode of the Drywall Podcast was brought to you by Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. Just a reminder, Fresco Harmony is having a price increase in the month of October, so be aware of that. If you have questions about Fresco Harmony, the podcast, or anything, you can email me directly at info@frescoharmony.com. Stay tuned for new and exciting episodes of the Drywall Podcast every Friday on your favorite platforms like Spotify or Podbean or Apple Podcast or Google Podcast, even YouTube. And now you can watch the entire interview in its entirety on our YouTube page. Just head over to YouTube and hit the subscribe button if you would. I would sure appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you all have a lovely, lovely weekend. And remember, keep drywalling.